J. Gary Seawald is with us. He is the attorney for Derek Washington, a right-to-carry holder in Cleveland, Ohio. Mr. Seawald, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. I confess I had not heard about your client's situation until I read an editorial in the Cleveland Plain Dealer today in which the editorial board of the paper says to the Cleveland Police Department, give your client his gun back. And I have to say, I was a little taken aback by that. I figure if the Cleveland Plain Dealer says that your client should get his gun back, there probably can be no doubt in almost anyone's mind that your client should get his gun back.
Not only do I agree with you, the guy who I was talking to about the article yesterday said basically the same thing.
So we have here a case of a concealed carry holder. You say, by the way, your client is not a convicted felon, right?
You can't be a concealed carry holder in Ohio if you're a convicted felon.
Okay, so he's not a convicted felon. As a matter of fact, he did, it seems like, what we want folks to do. He saw a crime being committed, and he called the police.
He heard a crime being committed. He heard gunshots. He'd been out with his friends. He heard gunshots, called the police, went out to the parking lot where they heard the gunshots, and obviously they went out subsequent to the shooting. The police arrived, and this is the way I get it from him. I obviously wasn't there. And they said, what's going on? He said, I called you because of the shooting. And by the way, I've got this concealed carry license. And they say, oh, my, or words to that effect. And he says, by the way, they ask him, where's the gun? He says, it's in my car. My car is about over there, which is like 10 or 20 feet away. So
okay.
He has no gun on him. So the eventual result of all this is they search the vehicle, which personally I think is an illegal search. 2, they arrest him. Now, they told him somewhere along the line that he was arrested for what we call in Ohio weapon under disability. What it just means is that the disability is you're a convicted felon. You can't have a gun. It's against the law. He spent 3 nights in jail, and I've seen Cleveland jail. The good news is I've seen it from the outside.
Right.
It is one ugly place. It is. You can ask the prisoners here in Ohio, given a choice of the penitentiary or Cleveland jail, they would take the penitentiary in a heartbeat. And this is not federal pen. This is real. So it's really an awful place. So he spends 3 nights in jail. I get him out on the 3rd day. Never comes any charge. He says he's got a Taurus 38. I want to say it's maybe a 2-inch barrel. I can't remember.
Okay.
Maybe 4-inch. It's not a big deal. You have no excuses that it carries 27 shells and can be used for taking over an entire
It's a 38
village.
revolver, right?
It's a 38. It's got 6 shots. And I write him a letter. I say, please give me back the revolver. And the law in Ohio is better than most states. I'm a lawyer, so I get into this stuff. And the law is just so clear, it's ridiculous. So I say, give me back the gun. I write him a letter. I got a call from somebody that says, it is our policy. I wrote to the chief. It is our policy not to return the gun. I don't care if you're the Cleveland Plain Dealer, which is clearly not a pro-gun magazine or newspaper.
Right.
It's his property. How do you keep the property? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
And it's not even a civil or a criminal forfeiture. We're not talking any due process here. They're just going to keep the gun.
Right. What would be the difference between, like, well, look, we're going to keep his car, or we're going to keep the stuff in his wallet? I don't understand this.
And in fact, let's accept the fact that, let's say, a gun is under a special category, and that's 2 ways. It works 1 way. 1, it's dangerous, and 2, it's Second Amendment covered. It is a civil right, period. I have a right that's what Heller versus D.C. says, basically. I got a civil right, just like a civil right that they violate as if in the Fourth Amendment, if they do an illegal search, which they did here as well. And the Ohio Constitution's even better. You want to hear something which the U.S. Constitution could have used, you wouldn't have needed all those cases. Ohio Constitution says specifically, this is almost great, it takes 1 second, the people have the right to bear arms for their defense and security, semicolon. Then the rest of it you don't need. Oh, I'll go the rest of it. But standing armies in time of peace are dangerous to liberty and shall not be kept up, and the military shall be in strict subordination to civil power. Then it goes on a little further on in what it's our Constitution. It says you have a redress in courts. What they're doing here, and because it's a policy, it's a $350, $450 gun in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what it costs wherever anybody else is, but here, $350, $450 tops. you got to file a lawsuit. To file a lawsuit, it's a $250 filing fee unless you're indigent. So what they're doing is they're taking away your access to the courts. Not just taking away your gun, they're taking away your access to the courts.
Right.
And it has a chilling effect. I mean, why shouldn't this guy have a gun? By the way, I happen to be a member of the NRA, but I am not on the extreme gun part of it. I mean, even the plain dealer agrees with us that there's no reason for this citizen not to have a gun. He's got a right to defend himself.
Absolutely. And what is the police department saying so far?
So far, then I write, that's right, I got halfway through the story. I write to the chief. I get a response that it's their policy not to give it. I write to the law director, who I know, and I got no response. After sitting, this is since April, I have sat on this. I haven't done anything about it. I'm going to quote Charlton Heston in about a minute. I filed suit. I don't get a response. And then you saw the response that was in the plain dealer by some representative. And she said something silly like...
Yeah, well, look, he had alcohol. And like, isn't there a rule that if he's had alcohol, we could take his gun?
I don't... First of all, he didn't have the gun. The gun is in his car, perfectly safe.
Right.
And I don't know that there is a law. I must tell you, I don't claim to be an expert in anything. But I don't know that there is a law that says if I have a drink, I got to give my gun to the nearest cop, or give it up, or not have it on me, or not have it. And he didn't have it on him. He didn't have the gun on him. I don't care what your thing is.
Right. Well, and I'm pretty sure your client. Let's say that your client had
he did have two drinks. That's what he said. Nobody asked how many hours they were over, or what he was drinking, other than two absolutes.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're out of his system now.
Well, after 3 days in jail, he was perfect.
So I think he's good to go. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I don't think you have to be to see the injustice in this case.
No, I swear, it's not like I'm not preaching nothing.
Right.
It's just, it seems to me, just ridiculous, and it's a stupid policy. I mean, why would they? I mean, this guy was really helping the police, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just even I find it just absolutely bizarre. And the more I go through the law, and that's here because I keep going forward with this because I filed it in state court, and I asked for civil rights violations. One, I want them to find for sure that a Second Amendment violation is a civil right, that I have a right, quotation marks, a civil right to have a gun. And I think I do. I think that's pretty easy. Then I got the fact that they took the gun, they're not compensating him for you. If they take your house, or they take your car, and it's not a forfeiture due to some criminal act, don't they owe you the money? The Fifth Amendment in the 14th says they do. Yeah. Without just compensation, or just to that effect.
So is there a hearing date scheduled right now?
No, it's a plain old civil case, just like when you bring any other lawsuit, the city has, after getting served 28 days to file an answer, they will, and then we'll go through the discovery procedure. Along the way, since I entitled it, the real way I got into court was as a replevin, which means generally, you got my property, I want it back. Is that since replevin is by nature they want to expedite replevins. Let's say you had my RV instead of my gun.
Okay.
And I'm blowing summer in Cleveland. I want my RV now because it's August. I don't want to wait till I get it in December.
Right.
It's the same sort of thing. You can file an appropriate motion for like an immediate hearing. I'm trying off the top of my head. I can't remember what it's called, but let me look. But I've got it here somewhere. But you file for a hearing on the replevin, and theoretically they should have a hearing on it. What I'm going to do is, after I get an answer from whoever the attorney is for the city, I'm going to ask him, just give me the gun. Come on, guys. Why do I have to file paper? Why do I have to make noise over this? It's ridiculous. It's $350 for all of this, talking to you, the plain dealer, the hours that are spent working and preparing a case. And, every time you read something, it's applicable. It's amazing. To this, when you talk about injustices and stuff, if I had couched it in different terms, the whole world would be on my side. And I think, to be honest with you, if the plain dealer is on my side, or my client's side, then who isn't?
There you go.
I mean, it's and you know, sometimes when there's a disconnect between the administration and what they should be. I mean, if this, let's say for argument's sake, they had a policy of segregation, and we're doing this. You think somebody would go to federal court and lose that case?
You know, again, I'm not an attorney, but I would think they
Not
would.
a chance.
Yeah.
I'll save you the trouble. You know the
Thank
answer.
you.
Not a chance. And I don't know. And we're a poor city. It's not like we're, you know, it's not like we're some big thriving city. We're not. You know,
Right.
this is a poor city. You know, why are they wasting their efforts on this silliness? Law department included.
You know, that I think is the real question. All of the energies that are going to have to be devoted, devoted to defending these actions, none of these things are going to help Cleveland become a safer city, because your client, Derek Washington, is not the cause of any crime in the city of Cleveland.
No, he happens to be a very nice fellow, you know, and you know, even at the logic. This is their logic. Their logic is if they make it too expensive for somebody to exercise their rights, then they got it. Then they got you beat. So it takes somebody who is either, like Derek forced me into this. I mean, I know quite a bit about guns and not guns, but the law about guns. And I knew he was right, and I had to have a guy who was motivated. And he's not an NRA guy or anything else like that. He is just motivated. He says, it's my gun. They got no right to it. I want it back.
Well, listen, Gary, please let us know any details in this case going forward, will you?
I will be glad to. And just what will happen is, just so you know, and I'll certainly, and I appreciate the opportunity to vent.
You bet.
And every time I talk about this stuff, I get crazy. Is after we have discovery, I'll be curious to see where this policy, I bet you $100 I can't find this policy in writing. I'm curious where it comes from. I can't believe they'd put something like that on paper.
Right.
So when I find that out, I'll be glad to pass that on to you.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you this is not the only city that does it.
Oh, I won't take you up on that offer, because I think you're probably spot on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to a guy who's the president of the Ohio Gun Collectors, a guy named Jim Tekovic. And he said he heard about it all the time. And I said, whoa. I was truly surprised, because I figured, you know, maybe Cleveland does it, but who'd think other cities would do the same thing?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, listen, Gary, I appreciate your time this afternoon, sir. Thank you, and
Thank
look
you,
forward to
sir.
talking again soon.